Hello friends, in this video lecture we will discuss about pharynx, esophagus as well as stomach. In previous video lecture we already discussed about the first part of alimentary canal, that was mouth. In mouth we discussed about vestibule, about buccal cavity, about tongue, teeth and palate. Now here this is about the next one, that is pharynx. So first, what is pharynx? Pharynx is a common passage for food and air, and this one is covered by a very thin elastic cartilaginous flap-like structure that is known as epiglottis. Here in the diagram you can see clearly about the epiglottis. Now what is the role of epiglottis? So epiglottis prevents the entry of water or food into the glottis. What is glottis? So glottis is just opening of windpipe. You can also see the opening of windpipe in the diagram. Now there are three parts of pharynx, as you can see in the diagram by blue color. This is about nasopharynx. This nasopharynx is a portion which is just located behind the nasal chamber, and nasopharynx connected by middle ear with the help of a tube that is known as eustachian tube or auditory tube. So this eustachian tube is a very important terminology. There is also one more term like eustachian valve, but this eustachian valve is related with heart, while eustachian tube or auditory tube, this terminology is related with middle ear. The second part is oropharynx. So you can see this is indicated by green color, and this is just behind the oral cavity. This one is for passage of food and air. Both crosses here from nasal side. This is nasal chamber that is connected by nasopharynx, and from mouth side this is oral chamber that is connected here at oropharynx. The last part, which is by violet color, is given here for laryngopharynx, and this is just behind the opening of larynx or voice box. The next one is esophagus or food pipe. This is a single 25 cm long tubular structure that is located to the posterior of trachea or windpipe, and the opening of esophagus or food pipe is known as gullet, while esophagus passes through the diaphragm and opens into the stomach. Diaphragm is a muscular flap-like structure which divides the human body into two parts. The region which is upside to the diaphragm is known as thoracic cavity or thoracic chamber, while the lower region is known as abdominal cavity or abdominal chamber. So most of the part of digestive system as stomach, small intestine, large intestine, pancreas, liver, gallbladder, they all are placed in abdominal cavity. Now when food enters in the esophagus, this passes down towards stomach by a movement. This is known as peristalsis. So this movement is very important. We discussed earlier about a structure in buccal cavity that is known as uvula or velum. This is the posterior end of soft palate that is hanging downside. So this structure also you can see in the diagram, and this structure causes closure of nasopharynx when there is entry of food or water inside the food pipe, while the downside, which is epiglottis, this also causes closure of windpipe. That's why there will be a single opening that will allow entry of water and food only and only inside the esophagus or food pipe. When we discuss about food pipe or esophagus, their walls are carrying a number of longitudinal folds, and these walls keep the esophageal cavity or lumen closed when there is no passage of water or food, or we can say when there is no swallowing or deglutition of food inside the esophagus. At that time, this prevents the entry of air that comes through nasal chamber inside the esophagus or digestive tract. So when there is breathing, at that time food pipe or esophagus is closed, only windpipe or trachea is open. That's why breathing occurs. And when there is swallowing or deglutition of food, at that time, because of uvula or velum, because of epiglottis, there is closure of windpipe. Only food pipe or esophagus is open. So this makes entry of food and water as well as air in their respective sites. Now the next one is about stomach, that also known as gaster. So stomach, this is J-shaped structure. Its shape is very important. In NCERT this is clearly given that stomach is a J-shaped structure. This is also the widest organ in human alimentary canal. Alimentary canal, we discussed, this starts from mouth and terminates with the anus, that is the last part of large intestine. So stomach located in the upper left part of abdominal cavity. We earlier discussed abdominal cavity is the region which is just below the muscular flap diaphragm. Now stomach contains a number of internal folds. These internal folds called gastric rugae, and again any fold which is present anywhere in the body, anywhere inside the cell, this always for increasing surface area that will maximize the metabolic activity. Stomach stores food for 4 to 5 hours, and this will depend on the nature of food, what kind of food a particular person is intaking. Suppose the food is carbohydrate rich, then their storage will be only for 1 to 2 hours. Suppose the food is highly proteinaceous in nature, then storage will be for 2 to 3 hours, and if this is enriched with lipid, then for 3 to 5 hours. Now the next one is about parts of stomach as well as sphincters or valves of stomach. So there are 4 parts you can see in the diagram. This is the first, that is at the entry of esophagus, is known as cardiac. The next one, that is the very anterior or tip part of stomach, known as fundus. The third one is body, that carries the most functional part of stomach. Here there is a number of exocrine glands that we discuss further, and the last one is pyloric part. This terminates into small intestine. Now the next one is about sphincters or valves that regulate the entry or exit of food inside or outside the stomach. So first, this is cardiac or gastroesophageal sphincter. You can see in the diagram about the location. This is in between esophagus as well as gastro, we discuss is about stomach. So this sphincter located in between esophagus and sphincter, this allows entry of food from mouth or esophagus into stomach. In some very rare cases, this may become irregular and there will be reversal of food from stomach to mouth or esophagus. In case of newborn, this sphincter is poorly developed. That's why there will be reversal of milk in form of clotted milk or curd from their stomach to their mouth when there is a little pressure on their abdomen. The second one is about pyloric or gastrointestinal sphincter. You can again see this one clearly in the diagram, and this is in between stomach, that is gastro, and duodenum, that is the first part of small intestine. This allows entry of food from stomach to intestine, and this sphincter developed from the very starting or the birth of particular human body. Now what is the role of stomach? So stomach is mainly related with digestion of protein, and there is a very little digestion of lipid also by the help of gastric lipase. Now there is also one more type of stomach that is known as ruminant stomach or compound stomach. So because of their complexity known as compound stomach, or because of the specific chamber which is present here, on that basis known as ruminant stomach. So there are four parts also in ruminant or compound stomach. These are rumen, reticulum, omasum and abomasum. Here abomasum is considered as a true stomach because the gastric juice secretion as well as digestion related activities are going to be completed in this abomasum region. In the diagram you can see rumen is the largest part that is related with temporary storage of food. From rumen, food is again taken back into the mouth. This process is known as regurgitation, and again by proper grinding of food from the mouth, this again taken back. Now this time the food reaches into reticulum and then omasum and finally into abomasum. So this kind of stomach found in ruminants. Ruminants are the mostly cattle as well as rest of the herbivore animals. Here their stomach as well as small intestine is comparatively more developed with respect to omnivore as well as carnivore animals. Why? Because they are feeding on cellulose that is present in grasses, and digestion of cellulose is comparatively tough. To provide more time, to provide more space, there is compound stomach as well as more elongated small intestine.